4 out. Of course, I focus very much on every issue on the victims of choice because they are a very central point, and the reason of importance is definitely not at all but the thing that used to exploit their bodies without knowing anything, just as the leader of this gang depends on the bodies of these people completely in order to lead his gang through this. Like a dirty name is a choice, and it is the most ridiculous and dirtiest thing at all, but something that brings shame to everyone who is a victim of choice for this terrorist gang in Iraq, as he will make a grave mistake against God and all the heavenly religions. Also, if there is a law in Iraq, also he will commit a legal violation. Because of this, the gang does not have any official status, meaning I am not a recognized organization with a known place, no known management body, or a responsible financial officer who can be held accountable. Also, the sources of its funds are unknown and depend on illegal sources such as theft, corruption, slavery, smuggling, drug trafficking, etc. All these are sources that have no legitimacy as well. Legitimacy. It has no legitimacy, and all the laws that operate within our gang laws are not legitimate, which means who is expelled from them, either they beat him or kill him. Is there such a law in any respectable organization? It also does not have any legal structure, for example, a committee of accounts or a specialized sanctions committee in it, as it adopts the method of intelligence leadership, and a sleeper cells. Also, every hour a person comes to an administration official in it. Also, they're considered from eating and drinking and taking a need or some money or housing, or even talking as if they belong to them. I mean, if you talk to one of them, they will stick to you and find yourself your name has been registered with them. I mean, fraud, and fraud does well. It is corrupt from within it. One is lying to the other and stealing the other. I mean, there's no internal law that regulates the relationships between its elements themselves. They're just like 6 out. The clan of hyenas. The reason for their gathering is for theft only, etc. From this we find that the role of the victim of choice is the dirtiest thing at all, and it is also the greatest insult to the victim herself, who accepts to become a scarecrow, birds, or a pillar on which a camera is placed, or a person who has made a front for the leader of the gang leader to hide while being make the victim appear to be the leader while she is not wearing it, or that the matter is similar to a lizard cutting off her tail when she feels danger, so that the attacker thinks that the tail is the lizard because he sees it moving and busy with it while the lizard escapes, and after a short period the new tail grows to her. And so here is the same thing with the victim of choice, which resembles the tail that moves only while this demon, the leader of the gang, is a lizard that does not care about what will happen to the victim, as he will find dozens of weakened bodies to enter, and these people either hunt them or bite them from their families that will make themselves guardians of the victim and say she is afflicted with a mental illness. For this reason, for example, they speak on their behalf or act with it. Of course, no matter how I describe you to the position of the victim of choice, I will not be able to. It means the end in the full sense of the word, and the victim will not benefit in anything. It will not benefit people, nor all who you want to benefit them, but it is just a donkey eaten by the gang and throws bones with it. I always want to reveal the important points that benefit victims of choice. I do not talk about things that many talked about with this. Many of the victims knew that they were chosen, but they say that they did not know what they envision, and that no one came to them to give them orders to do what they do or tell them the gang. This is your duty or your role. Of course, this is true, but 7 ad. The victim does not know that she was exploited without her knowing, and this gang does not throw her money in the river. They exploited the victim and she does not know, and this exploitation was by giving a position to the victim and she does not know him at all, and they have made someone of them sit on it, and after a while the period of exploitation of the victim's body has ended, and there are procedures certain gangs take. For example, if the victim did not know something about such a position, and she was also obedient to them or crossed by friends and did not do anything against them. In this case, getting rid of them after him would be ways of taking them to the good, or looking for them to find work, or make them marry, etc. And all this means that the devil, who made himself sacred and entered her body, will leave this body, and then the mind control slides will be stopped from the victim. Here the victim has been exploited and given a position to her, and then they expelled him without knowing anything. But the other type of victims who reveal the game, for example, by looking at the experiences of other victims, or looking at specialized websites against this gang and revealing its faults. Here, you will compare what happens to it with what you read or hear. You will find it similar, so you will make the decision to rebel. You will also know what a family of the victim and her friends are always against the victim too. You will know why everyone feels against her, or no one is helping her, or is left facing her destiny on her own as if it were her destiny, or the others have become like a buffalo herd, and this is a weak victim that fell prey to a group of hyenas, and others look at her only and no one opens his mouth in a word, although it is clear injustice. While they too, their role will also come. The victim will reveal that the nature of the war against it is an enemy that comes attacking, and another who hides himself in order to make himself with the victim or follow her, and this is a plan for this gang to forge the victim's quality and make it appear 8 at. in a different way. For example, we take an example repeated inside Iraq dozens of times with the victims of the choice. We take a victim from them in order to see that the gang has 4 groups. It has made the eastern and southern group be against the victim in public means, defaming the reputation and various types of harm and using weapons for mind control and others. And then they made the north group in the west that claims to follow the victim, or the victim is responsible for them, or imitates the actions of it, or represents them, or records for them elements, or they are hidden guards for them. They prevented her from every source of her money here. The game will be that the North and West group will give legitimacy to this when you claim that they're the guardians of the victim and that all their money is given to them, and they justify the gang that attacks it has competition for a position and not a brutal attack on one person. The secret does not know much of the victims, and it is also the reason that no one interferes to help her. Also is the reason for the failure of all the attempts made by the victim to save herself, because the West and North group seems to have made the victim a person folding orders for her is only, and it is forbidden for her to file a complaint to any party. Of course, I am trying to communicate this image to you, and I will give examples to clarify this case. Suppose that there is only one person and the problem occurred between him and his neighbor who has a whole family, who happens that half of this family will do harm against this person, but the other half will make himself neutral or elder or lying, say that they are against the second half of the family and they are different from them, or they are with this person. But what happens is that these are the ones who fail any attempt of this person to repel the attack of the second half or any attempt to respond on them.
The motive, the reason why, and who would be behind this kind of thing. As for Voice of Skull in itself,
عفوا أيها الصديق، أريد أن أطرح سؤالا. أتعرف من هو هذا الرجل العجوز؟ أرجوك.
رجل عجوز؟ يا إلهي!
حسنا سأمشي. فهمت. أنت سعيد لأني أحملك على الكتفين، ولكن إلى أي مسافة تريد أن أحملك؟
11 ad. You are a liar, but he is lying, of course. I focus very much on this group, even more than on the group that attacks, because I see that the harm to the victim is more effective because of the moral factor. This group turned the victim into a boxer who entered the boxer ring despite his nose, and he is bound to the hands and feet and the tongue, and only became the strikes after the strikes, and the audience waits when the victim falls only, and the competitor does not leave 1 second without exploiting it. But even in the break, the victim will not let the little layoff from carrying the beating on her only, and not boxing, of course, means the victim. Because of this group West and North, you will not be able to scratch the gan even from the most important lies of this group West and North. They say this is a test for the victim if anyone comes to ask about a reason like this of farce, or they say it is an internal competition for a position. Also, they're the ones who manipulate all the communications of the victim so that they prevent any voice to. Also, they're the one who prevents any person from giving any help for her, whether financial or otherwise, on the pretext that they are her followers. Of course, they have made themselves old, of course. This is a case of repetition for every victim of choice, and he will find such a thing that happens to him in Iraq. Which is that the United States of America and the coalition countries have nothing to do with all this family, and any element of this gang claims to be other than this. He is a liar. They have an acting game that they invented. They also have electronic drone planes that operate with a system of mind control. These planes have close shapes to the shape of the real planes, and they are the cheap fools inside Iraq with it, too. They play with every victim. They have a game to turn off the power. By the way, I think we knew the scenario well, which is that God gives the victim of choice a position or an organization with a gift box, and also 12 act. Also, she has a guard or guardian over her, and it is this devil, an intelligence officer, who will make himself the guardian of the victim, a secretary for her, a guardian, or a translator for her, and he takes orders from her. Rather, this specialization is also one of the other lies, is that it prevents the victim from taking any money from this organization, and if you touch any money from it, it will turn into stones, while only thieves are allowed to take anything. Also, this organization permits dealing with any party except the United States of America and the countries of Europe, because it is God's orders from other lies that each victim has a specific period, and then God's commands to take half of the organization and give it to the homosexual security agent, or become 2 halves. Of course, this game is also repeated with each victim of choice. Also, we have a lie by using the thought-routing device which is used for him on it seems when the victim revolts and knows the game and stays in one place and does not go visit her friends after she knows that they have all become members of this gang or the intersection of her family for the same reason. In this case, it will not Satan serve the game of reading ideas to make orders to give them to the gang members and it is funny that the victim if you think, for example, to give $20 million and change the laws, and even if she said this, he will not implement something because he is an imposter.
No room for mistakes. There's no room for mistakes.